though, you know. Crime's getting crazy around
Okay,
here.
and I'm sorry, I knew you woke me up for an appointment, but I thought it was for my appointment over here. Your
How's
dad
that?
also forgot it, so.
Oh, you got one of those? Yeah. I got that
Okay.
same one that, yeah, that friend of
Fine.
mine. I don't know if you met him when you were up there. When was it that you were last up at Petrified?
Just a year ago. in July.
Oh, okay, this is before my friend got up there, yeah.
Yeah, they gave me that Petrified Forest National
That's
Park.
great. Yeah, I'm gonna be, my parents are coming out from Pennsylvania, that's where I'm from originally, and they haven't been up there yet, so they says, well, you gotta make sure to take us up to Petrified Forest. I said, sure.
Let's see.
Did you
Does
have
this
that,
your
was that
record
tape
stuff
stolen,
again?
Granddad?
This is a book we made for
That tape
Dad
I
on his
took at
90th
Petrified
birthday.
Forest at
And
your
that-
meeting? You know, at your meeting at Petrified Forest, was that
Anyway,
tape
but I-
stolen?
back in-
No,
back
no,
in
it's-
it's in here.
It's here someplace.
Did it play in this camera? Because that was
No.
taken with, it was 8, wasn't it?
That was made with the other camera.
Yeah, but what film size is it? I can put it in here if it's the right film
Different
size.
from that, I'm sure.
I think it's 8.
Job, but, okay,
I don't
that's
have it.
Petrified
Oh,
Forest.
jeez. Boy, that does look a lot different than what it used to.
Now, there you go, Dad.
Well,
It's on film, what you
there's
just
me
did.
in.
Yeah.
Just shows you,
That
you know,
time was,
just,
you folks don't have to wear those anymore.
Yeah, that's the old uniform, all right. You know, they did bring back that dress jacket. You know, they cut them short. They made them the Ike jacket. Then a few years ago, for special ceremonies, they've come out with this formal type of jacket that looks exactly like the old one. It kind of goes down about halfway to your thigh there.
Yeah.
There's Petrified Forest too.
This
yeah.
is Petrified Forest.
That looks like.
This
Don't
is-
tell me that's the. Looks like Albright there.
That is all
You're
right.
kidding.
That's all
That was
right.
our second director of the
This is,
National Park Service.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Forrest Albright.
Frank Pinkley,
Yep, Bob Pinkley, yeah.
and this is Smith.
Oh boy.
This is Emily Hills on the Tillotson of Grand Canyon. And this Frank Winans, the chief ranger. And this is John.
Tell you what, that'd be nice to get on videotape
This
too. I don't
is-
know how well it's gonna show up, but.
This is Carol Miller,
uh,
myself, and.
Where are you at? Yeah, it's
I'm right
second
there.
to the end there, yeah.
And
What year was that about?
this was about 1932.
Uh-huh.
I think that was the year 32.
No way. No, you're not. I don't remember
This
any
is the recording here.
growing up.
Now there's a plug for you right back.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, you'll have to drop it
Yeah.
down. You say you have my tripod up at your house?
Yeah,
yeah.
God, I'm glad they didn't steal that.
yeah, I have your tripod.
Oh, my
That's the
God.
only reason they didn't steal it, I had it.
That's a shame they took all.
Well, they just cleaned him out, just
Jeez.
the film and everything.
Yeah, like I say, it's going on all over the place though.
Well, one of these days the people will get upset about it and do something about it.
Yeah, do
Yeah.
something about
Right
it.
now the criminal's right. You know, the lawyers fight real hard for
That's
the criminal.
true, that's the truth. I
You know,
tell you.
really. The victim, he really gets shafted.
Yeah.
They make a criminal out of him.
Or if you beat up on the guy that breaks into your house, then he takes you to court for assault.
Oh,
I mean, what
yeah.
kind of a, you know?
A police
I
officer
feel
told
so
me,
sorry for the policemen anymore.
Oh yeah, they're fighting a losing battle out
You
there.
know,
I tell you.
I just couldn't be a policeman
Yeah.
and not have the authority to arrest somebody, or, you know, without
I know.
being,
Well, if you touch one of them, you're in trouble. You know,
And it's-
blackbirds. But those two of them is what broke in here, because I got in my car and started up to Christown, and there was two of them out here on the sidewalk.
Oh, you saw him too.
Oh, well, yeah, and they had white towels on their arm, and I wondered what it was all about, and I was just suspicious. A couple of niggers in my neighborhood just didn't fit too good. So I went up and I decided I'd make a loop, and then I thought, well, my God, nobody's gonna bother anything, and my house is all locked up. And I came back, and man, you should have seen this house.
Just ransacked.
All of the drawers were pulled out, everything was scattered
Yes, they got everything out.
from all over the place, and our cameras were gone, electric razors and God knows what all.
Well, you see, that bothered him a lot, but the one that bothered me is when he and Alta was asleep in the bedroom.
Yeah, the first time we were both
The first time they
in
were
bed.
broke into, and
How
when,
soon after the first time was
the
it?
first time, well, it was,
3 weeks.
within the same year.
Jeez, you think it's the same people too?
I don't think so, really.
Jeez.
You think so,
Next
Dad?
time, I have no idea who those first ones were, only the second time they broke the window and came in the bedroom, and then came and opened the door, and
The first time they came in.
And the
back.
first time, I don't know how they got in, but they got in here, and I got up in the next morning and I looked in that chair where you're sitting, and there was a bag there, and I thought, well, Donna had been down here, my daughter here, and I got to look, heck, everything was gone.
Jeez.
And there was a knife outside that they'd taken out of the kitchen and had carried it around with them and then threw it
Oh,
away.
jeez, it's
out
lucky
there.
that, yeah, you
So
weren't
I'm
hurt
so
in this
glad that
thing, you
they-
know,
they-
yeah, with all, yeah.
Yeah,
They probably would've used it on you too had you tried to stop them.
it's
Yeah,
not-
they say it's best just to let them do their thing and
Yeah.
then just, you know, it's,
Well, I called the police, and they came up, and they looked around a little, it didn't seem to be too much, you know. Then the next time, why, he didn't even try to take any fingerprints that I remember of.
yeah.
Anyway, they came in the window and got in here. Then after that, I put in this, security system. It's in here now.
Right.
And by golly, you come up to the doors now and that thing's on, well, you're in trouble. You squall like a crushed cat.
Jeez. Doing the interview, tell them I work out of the Southern
Yeah,
Arizona
that's-
Group office here in Phoenix and that I'm at your place and I'll read the residence if you don't mind there. Just tell them we're here at the residence of Marion Reed. And then, guess the best way to start off, just ask, you know, for your birth date, where you were born, where you were raised, you know, just a little overview of your younger years and then, places you've lived and then when you started off with your first job with the National Park Service and you also were with the Forest Service too?
Oh, yes, I was with the Forest Service.
Tell us about that too.
I went in the Forest Service,
That was before Park Service or?
and yeah, it was before the
Okay.
Forest Service. And before the Bureau of Public Roads.
Okay, yeah, I think especially the Forest Service, would like to hear about that and the park job and just some of your duties and when you lived out in the park, like with some of the living conditions were in housing. You'd be surprised, probably things haven't changed all that much. Boy, you should see some of the housing in some of the parks now. Sorry, they got a lot of mobile homes where you can actually see down to the ground. There's like holes right in the floors. You can't heat them because they're not well insulated and it's crazy. And I thought I'd just touch on, just some of your thoughts about the Park Service. I'm sure you saw a lot of changes over all the years in the Park Service, the highs and the lows. I don't know if you heard about the most recent thing. It's coming about, any day now it's gonna happen. It's already been approved by, Babbitt, Secretary of the Interior, but they're gonna reorganize the entire National Park Service. They're gonna reduce from 10 regions down to 7. They're gonna make the regional offices very small. They're gonna make the Washington office very small too. And they're gonna send all the people out into the field areas. They figure, the parks is where we're short on people and that's where they need to be. So it's gonna be a whole different reorganization. It's gonna more or less give each park a little more independence. They'll be able to do a lot more things on their own than what they used to. Before you had to run it through your regional director. He in turn would have to run it through the Washington office. Then they would have to take it to the Secretary of the Interior. Now they're gonna let a lot of superintendents decide matters on their own at the park level.
That's wonderful, that really is.
Yeah, and they're gonna set up little offices around the country. We're hoping that our office, the Southern Arizona Group office here in Phoenix, our
I
main
didn't know there was
responsibility.
even a
Oh, yeah.
Park Service in Phoenix.
Yeah, we're right there near Park Central Mall, just about a block east of it on Earl, and our job is to oversee the parks on the southern half of the state.
The Southwestern Monuments headquarters was at Coolidge.
Yeah, the one Boss Pinkley, yeah.
Yeah.
This is similar to it, yeah. This is rather similar to it. Casa Grande still, functions as a monument, but now they're in what we call the Southern Arizona Group, and it's a lot like the Southwest Monuments, but it only takes in the parks in southern Arizona, no parks in New Mexico or elsewhere.
Well, we don't think we had any on the Chaco Canyon, I think.
Uh-huh.
in New Mexico. Is that in Arizona? I forgot.
Chaco's in New Mexico,
It's
you
in
got
New
it, yeah.
I know Mr. Smith and Mr. Pinkley went over there.
Daddy, the other day you were telling me a name of somebody that you had forgotten the last time. Are you gonna be able to remember that man's name?
Here's one I've always thought here's another one I painted, and I thought I would someday take this down to Casa Grande and show 'em. This is,
Oh, look at this. Yeah, they would love to see that. Look at that.
that's when it had.
That's the old structure, the
That's
wood
it,
one before,
that's the way it was.
yeah, before they replaced it with that metal
The
one.
skid trees.
Oh, yeah.
And these, I didn't, last time I was down there, I didn't see this, and these were out on the ground there.
So you spent a lot of time down at Casa Grande too, huh?
Well, I've been around there a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, because we want to know the places you visited too, not just the place you worked at too, but yeah, if you could tell us. But yeah, when we get done with the interview too, I'd like to maybe take the camera off the tripod, get close-ups of all your paintings and those pictures in the notebook if it's okay by you.
Well, it's all right with me, though.
Okay, well, I guess.
I mean, I have national
Uh-huh.
monuments and national parks in my paintings.
I have so many of them.
She has most of them,
You know,
so.
because when I had my house, well, I had enough walls. Right now they're in storage.
We live in an A-frame, no walls.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, that's true. We don't have to worry about it breaking down.
Yeah, boy, I guess I'm kind of headed up to the cool country finally after a whole summer in Phoenix. This weekend I'm going up to Heber. There's a conference going on up there, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I just folded that.
There's another one over there.
Yeah, I just folded it somewhere, Dad. Miss Alta needs to be out here at least this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
She's such a needy, she know, you know, she was raised in the Verde Valley too, so. She wasn't a ranger or with Dad, but Mama was with Dad on a lot, all of that.
Well, what's her first name now?
My mother, or out this,
Oh,
Alta.
yeah, Alta, okay. Specialist at the Southern Arizona Group Office in Phoenix. Today is September 28th, 1994, and I'm at the residence of Marion Reed at 1707 West Roma Avenue in Phoenix. Mr. Reed had worked as a national park ranger and had also worked with the Forest Service and several other agencies. Today we're at his household and we will be interviewing him. Good morning, Mr. Reed.
Good morning, good morning.
Can we start off, could you first state the place of your birth and the birth date?
Well, I was born in the big state of Colorado at Silverton on July the 29th, 1903. And when I was about 3 years old, my folks moved to the Verde Valley in Arizona. And I've been in Arizona ever since. It's like one of the interviewers up at the Pioneer Picnic interviewing my brother. They said, "Have you been in the Verde Valley all your life?" He said, "No, not yet." So that's kind of the way it is. I'm still here.
Okay, you had mentioned, yeah, you moved here from Colorado. What different locations did you live at in Arizona before moving here to Phoenix?
My folks moved to the Verde Valley, and my dad had a ranch below Camp Verde. Camp Verde is an old military post that was abandoned back in the 1880s, I believe. But anyway, he worked on these ranches. Then he got with the power company from the Arizona Power Company, and they moved up to Jerome. And in 1909, I started school in Jerome, Arizona. At that time, the time was full gas, smelter was going. It was called Boom Town. Now I understand it's more or less of a ghost town.
A
And
lot of art galleries there.
and had lots of art galleries and people that just like that part of the country. It is a beautiful part of the world, almost kind of standing on edge. But you can see all over the Oak Creek Canyon area. And down in this area, there's a town by the name of Camp Verde, and that was the old army post. And in you might say in 1910 on, I went to school there. I graduated from the Camp Verde High School in 1932. Soon after that, in 1924, I went to work for the Forest Service as a lookout man at Mormon Lake. And back that time, we didn't have cars to run around in, so I had my horse up there. And I'd ride from the ranger station at Mormon Lake up to the top of Mormon Lake Mountain. That's the mountain at the south end of the lake that has the and he was the next ranger from Yellowstone. They brought him over, and he acted as chief ranger, or was chief ranger, at Petrified Forest National Monument. I don't know who was in there. That's all changed over these years. And
Can you remember how large the staff was at Petrified Forest? How many rangers or?
well, when I went there at Petrified Forest, there was Mr. Rose was a naturalist. Mr. Gannell was a ranger, was a naturalist they brought in. And then they brought in a ranger that we call Alabama from Yosemite. And then John Edwards, he was a kind of a handyman all around the place. And myself, that's how I got on. They were building that up. And then they sent in a fellow by the name of Murray, Phil Murray, and they transferred him soon after that to Hawaii. And then they brought in a ranger by the name of Hugh Curry. And then they transferred Hugh Curry down to Montezuma Castle. And he was ranger there for a while, I remember. And there was several other naturalists and geologists and anthropologists and what have you would come in there to study the area and try to figure out where those logs came from, when it was that they were petrified, why they were, or how they were petrified, the kind of trees they were, and so all of that stuff. So that's all in books that you can get at now that some of those people were working on. And we met a lot of interesting people when I was ranger up there. A lot of movie stars.
Do you remember a few of the stars' names?
And not exactly the stars, because of them. I do remember one time I had been with Jack Dempsey on one of these caravan trips where we took him around, and I was with him most all day. But when it come about quitting time, we were kind of short on groceries, I guess, and we headed in for Holbrook. And when we got into Holbrook, I stopped in at my barber shop to get my hair trimmed. Inslee and Baker's barber shop that was there at that time. And when I got in the chair, why, one of these barbers said to the other and said, "Did you know that fellow that we just got through working on, wasn't he a dead ringer for Jack Dempsey?" Said, "Looked just exactly like him." But I never seen a fellow that looked more like another than that fellow. What pictures I've seen of Jack Dempsey. Well, I said, it's probably so, because I said he's been with me most of the day out at the Petrified Forest. They quit the work that they were working on, and both of them took down the street down to catch up with him and take a look at him, and there they kind of said, now that's the way some of those dignitaries. And we had generals, General Winan and General McCoy, and lots of people like that were generals. It was kind of interesting about when General Winan came through. We had a memo from the Washington office that General Winan would be in the Petrified Forest on or about a certain date. Please extend all courtesies to the general. And it came out of the headquarters. And so Mr. Smith had us all shine those big tall boots, polish our badges. We wore collar pins at that time, and clean up our collars, and draw your hat band, everything, just to be spick and span. And wear your blouse, wear your coat. It was just hotter than hell up there in some of those days.
You wore basically the same uniform year round. There wasn't such a thing as a
Well,
winter uniform
I'll
in
show you
summer?
some pictures that I have. We couldn't wear that. That thing was made of wool. It was heavy. But for dress up, we wore it. But anyway, I was on checking duty down on the entrance on Highway 260. And here came this fellow up with a stripe. I got out of the car with he wore a pair of blue trousers, tan shoes, and a striped shirt and a flop hat. And he got up and he said, "This is the petrified forest." I said, "Yes, sir, this is the petrified forest. Make yourself at home." So he picked up some pieces of petrified wood that we had around we had a sort of a little shack there for a checking station. And he said, this is really nice. He said, "I understand that General Winan is going to visit you." I said, "Yeah." I said, "We heard that he was coming, but I wished he would get here." I said, "We've been waiting for him," and I said, "It looks like he's never going to show up." And he kind of grinned. He said, "Do you have a telephone?" I said, "No, there's no telephones in the park or in the monument." I said, of course we were down and we had to go up over our kind of a raise to get up where the office was. Well, he said, "I thought if you had a telephone, you could call up to your headquarters and tell them General Winan's in the park. I'm General Winan." Nicest old guy you ever met. And then McCoy, General McCoy, I remember him coming in, but he had flags flying and an assistant in the car with him and a car driver. He was there. But this chief ranger we had, Winus, had served with him in the Philippines. I never forget it. And this McCoy was under General Wood. But anyway, this fellow Winus was over there, Winus too, and he was great for celebrities. And by George, he got over there with Mr. McCoy. He said, "You remember Mr. McCoy, or General McCoy?" He said, "The day we were in a certain place, and that Kanaki came up with a machete and pulled back and started to hit General Woods in the head with this machete, hit him in the head with it, and said, 'You shot from your holster and killed him?'" Said, "You remember that?" The General Ranger, he said, "There's a lot of things we don't talk about and a lot of things we'd like to forget." And that's all he said. At the end of that, and I thought that was very appropriate for him. He shouldn't have done that, but he did. And another thing that was that I noticed in human nature about this Ranger of Winus, all due respect to him, he'd come to me. I'd always these people from Kansas, Iowa, Illinois, back in farmers, you know. They'd save egg money and milk money, this and that, to make a trip west. And they'd bought them an old Model T Ford, or maybe it was a little better car. But anyway, they'd start out here to make this trip out to Arizona and into California. And they would stop by the petrified forest to see that. Well, I'd always try to extend all courtesies I could to that type of people, because this was once in a lifetime deal. But here, Arnold says, "Don't pay any attention to those people. Just treat them normal, but don't go out of your way to do something extra for them." But you let somebody drive up in a big Cadillac, and then you were supposed to do all courtesies to those people. And I met a lot of nice people that way. And some other, if you don't know about people that were met at that time, one time I was on museum duty, and we had a Stegosaphilian skull in there. That's an animal that lived back in the Triassic era, and it had a hole in the top of its head, and we called that the third eye. And I was telling the people about this skull, and I went on to telling other things about it. But anyway, when I got through, this man wasn't in the audience. He spoke up and he says, "What the ranger is telling you is the truth. He said, you have a cell in your brain today that corresponds to that cell. That was a sense organ, or you might call it a third eye, in this animal's head. So when he raised his head up out of the water, he could sense if anything was around. He says, you still have that cell in your head. And he says, I'm General Charles Mayo from Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. That's the kind of way things happened there. We enjoyed it, and we had something to talk about doing ourselves. With the Park Service, we do a little gossiping at here, there, and yonder. And we talk about these people.
Any politicians, senators, congressmen?
Oh, yeah, we
presidents?
had them through, but I don't remember who they were, really. I don't. But I'll tell you a funny little one that happened when I first went there. They had a ranger by the name of Bigsby. And he was very hard of hearing.
This was at Petrified Forest.
This is back at Petrified Forest. And he was on the checking station up to, on the north end of the forest. And he was there to check people out or check them for wood. But anyway, this particular day, this car pulled up and he said, say, Ranger. Now he went over there to the car. The ranger says, you have any petrified wood in the car? And of course they said no. But the fellow says, how far is it over to Gallup? And of course, Bigby didn't hear him. He says, just outside the gate there and turn to the right. He says, you can pick up all the petrified wood you want. The fellow said, well, thank you. But he said, how far is it over to Gallup? He said, just outside the gate and turn to the right. The fellow said, thank you very much. We all got a kick out of that. That was one of those little funny things that happened.
What was the visitation like in those days?
What?
Did you just, the visitation, number of people visiting the parks, was it
Well,
just a few people, or was it
at
anywhere
that-
near the visitation we see today, thousands and thousands of people coming every day?
Well, I'll tell you how it was. There was no freeway. We had Highway 66, and it was all washboardy as far as I've been on it from end to end, or from California to over into New Mexico, and it was all washboardy. Dirt road. But there was a lot of people moving from the east to go out to California to pick up prunes, I guess. And we wanted to bring up the visitation in the Petrified Forest. So up on Highway 66, as these people came through, we put up signs, stop 500 feet, U.S. Rangers. And these people would come down and they would stop, and we had a sheet of paper with a map on it and showing how you can go down through the forest, take the other road and go into Holbrook, and give them an invitation to come in, no charge, but maybe you'd like to see the Petrified Forest as you go in. And by that time, we had built this new road down through there. It was all paved, and it didn't take much off of the travel. So lots of them would do that. Well, the first thing we'd do was get their name on the register. And so we built it up, and we'd start registering people up on Highway 66, and they didn't have time really, some of them, to go down through the forest, but they said they would come back. But anyway, they had gone over the property. That's after we'd taken in part of the Painted Desert. And that way we built it up so that it could get the personnel visitors up to a point where they could make it national park status, I think. I think that was the big idea. But anyway, then they got made into a park, and I wasn't there. I was busy with the Arizona Highway Department back those days, building roads all over, building freeway start. That's what we did. And now let's see, what else have I...
Well, you had mentioned earlier about meeting Forrest Albright, the second director of the National
Oh, yeah, well, he came over. We put up a plaque up there, the Stephen T. Mesa plaque, that I have a picture of in there. And that's where that group picture comes in. And Mr. Tillotson from the Grand Canyon, and Frank Pinkley from Coolidge, and Mr. Albright from the licensing office. And that's when we met him. But I did meet other people. That wasn't too long to come over to dedicate that plaque. I'll show you a picture of it there. But he was a nice, very nice fellow. All of them were. I never met a fellow in the National Park Service that I know of wasn't perfect gentlemen and real people. I loved them all. And let's see.
Did you ever have an opportunity to go to visit the Washington office?
Oh no, I was been in Arizona. As my brother said, I've been here all of my life, but I'm working on it. So I've been out of this. We went to Florida one time when my grandson, he was a paramedic, and he graduated in Florida, over there at Eglin Air Base. And we went to Florida. And Florida's not very far away if you hadn't stuck that state of Texas right in between. I thought we'd never get out of that place. It's a long way. And that's about as far east as I went until we've been on cruises. The wife and I have been on, and my kids on cruises out to the Caribbean and that. So that, but the rest of the time's all been in Arizona.
Could you tell us a little bit about the living conditions, what the National Park Service provides you in the way of housing, living quarters?
Well, I told you on the start that they put me up in this stone ranger station. And
Yeah, this was back at Petrified Forest again?
That was
Okay.
Petrified Forest, and then they moved a shack up there, and there's a spring that a lot of people didn't know about when I went in there this last time. They said they had heard there was a spring there. Well, we had a beer barrel down in there, and this water drip, 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 and it made water enough that for our drinking and laundry and all of that. Of course, we had one of those outside chick sales deals for your plumbing.
You didn't have any indoor plumbing or
Oh no, not
outhouses and
No.
springs were what you
no,
used?
not when we started. But I helped put in the first sewer system that we built, because we built the ranger stations that are down there on the Third Forest. They're down in, they call it the Rainbow, I think, Rainbow Forest. And we built that, put in the sewer plant and the leach field, and that started it. That goes down the wash. Then finally we got that museum open,
Reed residence.
and it began to improve a lot. And then we moved into one of those new ranger stations, and we stayed there until I went back to the Bureau of Public Roads. But they didn't furnish us, well, I think the rent cost us $10 a month.
No.
$10 a month, I believe it was.
He's the video.
Did you have to purchase your own uniform, or did they provide that?
No, you furnish your own boots, your own choke bore breeches, as we call them, your belt, and your shirts, and your hat. They give you got a hat band, and your pins, your badge. And when I left, I turned my badge in. And that's all.
Would Rangers patrol wearing sidearms, weapons?
No, because we weren't collecting any money. We had another deal that went on in Petrified Forest that I might mention since you're doing this. They had, our argument was that we had no money for free literature of any kind, other than this one little map that we gave to people to make their way through the forest. But with Mrs. White Mountain Smith, made a little pamphlet or a booklet, they'd call it, a few pages thick and had some pictures in it and all like that she had written up, giving an explanation of the petrified forest. And she sold those to the rangers for 20 cents a copy. And when we met a car to give them instructions, we were telling them we had no money for literature. But we do have a book here that we sell for $0.25. If you'd like to have it, it's for sale for $0.25. And 9 times out of 10, you would sell the book, at least one. And I've had people come in there, there'd be 4 or 5, and they'd all buy books. And we got a nickel. We sold them for $0.25 and bought them for 20 cents. And we sell a lot of books in a day too. And that helps supplement a little bit on our wear and tear. And we have, and there, after we got there, I had a Chevy, and I had to use that to do the patrolling when I was on patrol. From one end of the area to the other.
That was the parked vehicle, huh? What year Chevy
That was mine.
Oh, that was your own personal
No, they
vehicle?
didn't furnish that.
Oh.
What they started out with before I got there, the vandalism was so bad that they put the patrolmen on motorcycles. And they had a fleet of motorcycles there. I don't know, there must have been 10 or 15 motorcycles when I went to work there. And none of them were running. Because we started doing a lot of patrolling we had to do in our own car. But the fellow came in one day and said to me, he said, well, what about selling those motorcycles? I said, I don't think they're for sale. But I said, I will find out for you. So I went down to the headquarters and I said to Mr. Smith, there's a man here interested in these old motorcycles we got. He says he can take 2 or 3 of those old motorcycles and make maybe one good one out of it. And he wants to know if they're for sale or was some. Old Smith said, no, we can't sell government property, no way. Well, I said, that's a darn shame because I said they could use those bikes. What are we going to do with it? So the next day there was a truck came in, loaded up those motorcycles and took them off down under one of those cliffs with a sledgehammer, and that was the last I heard of them. But they couldn't sell them. But that's the way they patrol. Oh, there's my bags. That humdinger?
This is the one you picked up when you were recently visiting Petrified
Yeah.
Forest? Yeah.
Right.
Did you
When they
make
gave
your
me-
badge?
Yeah,
Do you still have your old uniform and the old badges you were issued?
No, my daughter in California have the buttons off my uniform, and I can't find my car buttons, but they're bound to be here someplace. And the rats got my hat band, and that ended my uniform. And we wore a light-colored shirt at that time, and we had to furnish those. Of course, we furnished everything but the badge. And they gave us, as I said, the hat band and the pins. Now,
Back to Casa Grande ruins. When you were there, what year again? What period of time was that that you were at Casa Grande?
how do I went on with that now? Donna has the letter that you were going to make some copies of it. Of the dedication of that gavel to Mr. Pinkley.
Oh, really? It was in that leather, that leather?
Yeah, it was there, I think.
Approximately what date would that be? Give or take a few years.
That would have been about 1932.
1932? Is that when the old wooden structure covered over
No, they had already put up the structure they have there
the...
now.
Oh, no.
That's what makes this thing a little bit interesting, because that was the one before this, and the one before that wasn't any. But the weathering out so bad and melting down that the people, I guess, I don't know whether the Park Service or not, but somebody had put that roof over it to try to protect
The
the
first
roof.
one, you mean the
And
wooden
I
roof?
think it was made a national monument about 1905, and Montezuma Castle, I think, was about 1906, and I think Petrified Forest was made about 1905. But I don't know, but when I first saw, this is back at Montezuma Castle, when I first went there, or was in that area, living there, they didn't have a custodian that was at the monument, but they had a fellow that was appointed. I think he got $1 a year or something like that to act as authority at the castle. But that was a fellow by the name of Jim Sullivan. And occasionally he would go up to the castle. But most of the people walked into that castle and tried to get up in it. And there was some outfit before I was there that thought in the upper room that there must be a treasure up there that Montezuma had left sometime in his travels, which didn't exist, of course. But anyway, they had dug into that room, and their debris or trash was still left up there. People love to throw that down. And I think I have a picture here before the restoration, but Jackson did that. He came in there, and on the west side of the castle where the weather could hit it, those rocks were all bare on that side. And up in the top parapet wall, there was a great big V where people had torn out rocks and pieces of it to throw. And this vandalism is all in the world had, but he restored all of that. But when then they began to get so many people coming in there after we built the road, that was before the freeway was built, that they just had to quit having people climb the castle. They were just too destructive.
Did you ever have the opportunity to visit the nearby Montezuma Well or Tuzagut National Monument?
I've been there with all of them. And when
Many
we,
changes
in
over there?
1910, this is part of my life again, I'll tell you a little story about Montezuma Well. Back at that time, my dad had rented the ranch there at Montezuma Well. And the man that owned it at that time was by the name of Bill Back. And Mr. Back was married to my wife's aunt. But anyway, we were there, and up came an Indian one day, Apache, and all he had was a tow sack tied around him as a brick cob. And he had a rabbit hanging off of the rope. And boy, I guess I give up a lot of head because the Indian, every little bit he'd say, "Papoose afraid, Papoose afraid," and I was the Papoose that was afraid. But I remember that was in 1910, and now I know it was 1910 or some part of it, because that's the first census that I showed up in, because I never got a birth certificate. As far as I was concerned, I never was born. And I had an awful time trying to get a passport and all of that stuff, but that's still another story. But I've been at Montezuma Well, I don't know, I'd say maybe hundreds of times. And I've been down in where the water goes out, gone back in those caves in there, worked all of those out, and gone through places in that cave that was so small that you just couldn't hardly get through them to see what was in there.
Did you ever find any artifacts like
No,
pots or arrowheads?
not until later did the artifacts at Montezuma Well come up, and that's just this side of the well. There in that flat, I don't know whether you've been there or not. There's a kind of a meeting place there. I guess you've seen it. But there's a lot of graves around there. And when Mr. Back, his son, was there at Montezuma Well, you go around and try the ground, you find a grave, and he dug up a lot of buried Indians and artifacts. I don't know what he did with them, whether the government took them or what. But I think some of them probably went down to the museum that Mr. Jackson had started there at the castle, or what, I know there in the Montezuma Well area, Bill Back had put up a little building there, and he had several skulls, a lot of arrow points, some stone axes, and various other things that he had on display there, but I don't think they were for sale. They were just to show the people, as well as that petrified ditch that goes along down at the Indians. They took that water out of Montezuma Well and used it to irrigate the farmland which is there. And over the years, while we have used that parking area after Mr. Back tore the barn down, there used to be a big barn there, we used that for the Pioneer picnic area. But for some reason the Park Service cut it out. Now then they have to have this last time they had the Pioneer picnic down at some place there around Camp Verde that I've never been to since they had that park. I think they call it Butler Park. I've never been. But I don't know why the Park Service objected for that one day a year for the citizens of Camp Verde and the Verde Valley. As a matter of fact, the state of Arizona not having the privilege of coming up there and having their picnic as they have for years and years and years. And I've got a lot of movies of the picnics and the people that were there at that time.
Oh, your own home movies?
I started out in the early 50s taking 8mm movies. And I have my original camera, and I have the last movie camera. You can't buy film for those things anymore. And I had all of those films, and I thought I'd have them put on tape. And my God, I went to these places, and they wanted an arm and a leg and all your false teeth to do it. And it's too expensive for me because I had over 30 years of film and about 1,000 feet of movie film a year. So that's a lot of footage.
Was some of that film footage taken at Petrified Forest?
Some of it was taken at Petrified Forest, some of it was taken at Montezuma Castles, well, all over the state.
Mm-hmm.
And most of it of my family, of course. But I've watched my grandkids show up, and I have pictures of my mother. But anyway, on to that story. I said, well, if you can copy them, I think I can too. Well, I had this camera, very much like that one. And my daughter found a box. I still have it. It's a box, but anyway, I set up the projector over there, shoot into the box, and come out here. I had my camera set up, and I'd take a picture of it. But they're getting the noise on there. It was a clatter. And you try to run those tape after I took them, and it was too noisy. So I said, well, we've got to do something to get that out of there. But these people had told me I couldn't do it in the first place. You couldn't copy it onto a camera like that. But I found out different. So we went down, my daughter and I, and we bought that microphone you see on the top of the television there, and a box that in it. So all you had to do was plug in that microphone, and that's one of those room microphones that you put it on that table and hear everything that's going on in the room. But anyway, I copied those beta tape over and put them on VCR, VHS, whatever you call it. And I'd start up my phonograph and put a record in and cut the music down so you'd have a little music background, and then I'd narrate these films. So it worked out fine, and we'd lost all that clatter off of those others. It was just good. And she was looking at some of the film one day, and she said that it really looks funny to see those Indians up on the reservation putting on a Yibushai dance with Guy Lombardo as the orchestra. And it is kind of funny because my music don't fit the occasion, because the record would be playing and whatever happened to come up was on there. And it turned out a lot better than anybody would have ever expected to do with 8mm film, putting it onto so you can run it on the television.
Did you ever make it down to Tumacacre?
I haven't been in Tumacacre. I made a nice painting of that too.
Oh.
And my daughter has that painting up of Tumacacre at Placerville, California. And it was a funny thing. The last time I think I was there.
When was that about? What year? Recently?
No, but I wish I could remember years. But I don't. But anyway, I went in there and I signed my name on the register. And there was a ranger there. He looked at the register and says, "Reed?" I said, "Yes." He said, "My name's Reed." Well, I said, "By golly, there's lots of Reeds around." I said, "How do you spell your name?" He says, W-R-E-I-D. And he said, W. I said, "God almighty, mine's just plain old R-E-I-D. And then we found out that all of those Reeds started with the W, then they ended with the R-E-E-D-E and R-E-I-D-E, and then you just go on. I said, that makes us more plentiful than the Joneses and Smiths. You get all the different spellings of them.
Yeah, there's currently a John Reed, and I believe he spells it R-E-I-D.
Who?
Who works at Tuzigoot. John Reed at Tuzigoot.
John Reed.
Yeah, he's currently employed there as a park ranger.
I don't. I have a cousin by the. His name is Jon. I believe the way he spells his name. But he's a lawyer. But I didn't know there was. We had another Reed up at Montezuma Castle. She was married to one of my cousins, Ralph Reed. Then they split the seed, and Babs.
Babs,
Babs,
Yeah, she retired just in the last year
Yeah,
or so.
that's what the lady up there at the funeral told me that Babs, and that her husband had died.
What other national parks do you remember visiting in the early days? We started mentioning Tumacacre. You had
Oh,
that Ranger Reed
Tumacacre and Oregon Pipe.
Oh, Oregon Pipe too.
Yeah, I got some good pictures of that too. That old tree with all the wrinkle, with the bat. You know, if you've been, what would you call it? They don't have the arms going up. It's all.
Oh, the Cristates saguaro cactus.
Yeah. And there's another one very much like it at the mission there at Santa Maria. There's another cactus like that. And then the next one I saw was over there at Oregon Pipe. That's another monument I was to. And
What do you remember of Oregon Pipe? Do you remember when the Gray family used to ranch the cattle in through Oregon Pipe?
No, but there was cattle down there in some place when we were down there. But we went on down and went to Sonoita, the dirtiest town in the state, and spent some time down in there in Mexico, and then we came back into Arizona. That was, I didn't go on down to Wymus, and I see where they're gonna make a big improvement down there.
Yeah, Puerto Penasco.
Yeah,
They're gonna build a
Puerto
huge
Penasco.
resort development there.
Yeah, they talked about that. But then, let's see if I can think of any more parks. Or national monuments, Sunset Crater, and
Wupatki, had you been up there?
Wapatki, and Tusi Good, and well, there's not one that I haven't been to. I can just think of the names of them. And
Was your time at, when you were at Grand Canyon, that was on the North Rim?
both rims.
Up near, oh, both rims.
I spent in about two years at the South Rim, and about a year up on the North Rim. But I didn't stay there in the wintertime. That's a little bit on the cold side.
Not too many rangers stay there in the winter,
No,
just
no.
a few families. just to
I
take
had
care
a
of.
friend that stayed up there one winter on the North Rim, and we told it I don't want to go up there on the winter, but I did enjoy it the summer. We made that 28-mile survey from Jacobs Lake into the Grand Canyon, and let's see, other parks that I've been to Muir Woods, Sequoia, and Redwoods, and Crater Lake, and
But the ones you were employed at, that was, you were at Grand Canyon, Petrified?
I was with Grand Canyon and the Petrified Forest,
Right.
and I worked for Jackson there at Montezuma Cafe. Now, I don't know whether I've covered everything or how botched up it is.
Oh, no, I think you've covered quite a bit. What, any, parting remarks? Have you noticed much in the way of any changes in the National Park Service or the National Park System over all these years since you were employed?
Oh, well, not being there only on a short time, as I said about Petrified Forest, they had lost some more wood than they had. But the improvements was good, and there at the newspaper rock, they'd changed that from what it was when I was up there. And outside of that, in the museum, they had added on to the building there at the Rainbow Forest, made it larger, give more room, and the office at Petrified Forest was there, and they had moved it up to the Painted Desert area where you coming up there. That was all a different building. Then Fred Harvey's concession there, that wasn't in there, and they didn't have any gas station. And so that was the big changes there.
And now they have the interstate I-40 going right through the middle of the park. I guess that didn't exist at the time you were there.
No, it didn't exist, but I was, and helped build the bridge across the Rio Puerco River. And the day that was dedicated, we Rangers were in full uniform and hot. My Lord, that was one of the hottest places in the world. And we were all glad when that dedication was over, dedicating that Rio Puerco bridge. But the Rio Puerco was a big bowl of jelly. And you could go on it with a car and it would shake. And when we were building that bridge, putting down the piling, and they go down about 40 feet or they put into the ground, trying to get something to put a bridge on, it's all quicksand. And one day we could cross it if you'd put your car in second gear or low gear and head across there and don't stop. Because we bought milk there at Adamana when she was a baby. And we knew how to cross that river. But there was two German boys came in there one day and I told them not to cross that river, they'd have to go back. It had some water in it. And they thought, oh, not going to amount to anything. The next morning they didn't have any car, and they carried out what they could. They went and dug it, got in the Holbrook and got another car, bought another one, and went on their way and left the car there. And we went up to dig that car up, and it was about 2 feet under the sand. And they took it in the Holbrook and cleaned it up, but they never could get that sand out of it. It was just nothing in the world but like Palmerstone, they just eat the pistons and all this stuff. So it was a bad river. And I can't think of anything more that you might want to.
Hope we could take just a few minutes to look at some of your photos and some of your paintings.
We can sure do that.